Let's go.
Yeah. This is Umar for BoxNation. The camera's over there, but you have to look at my ugly face, Frank.
Oh no, it's the PG rated, this one. Go on, let's go.
Well, a big moment in the press conference there was Derek asking for a gold Rolex from you. Apparently you and Eddie are going halves on it, though.
Eddie?
Yeah.
Why is that? What's it got to do with him?
Well, he's saying you can go 50-50 on it.
Oh yeah, listen, he can go, he can pay for the lot. I've got nothing. If he comes through, which you know, whether he comes through or not, we will be privately giving him something.
I've just spoke to Derek about, the moments with Vitaly Klitschko, David Hayes stuff. It's all on BoxNation. It's been like an emotional journey with you. I know you said there's been ups and downs. He said that as well, but it's been some ride. You started together, you're ending together. Just sum it all up, the Derek Chisora story with yourself.
Well, it's all what you said. He's all what, since the moment he come with me, which is 18 years ago this month. Some unbelievable moments, some exciting moments, some frustrating times, some times where we've had fallouts. But whatever way you want to look at it, he's always given everything in the ring. In every fight he's in, he's gone in there and he's not left anything. He's left everything in the ring. When he's come out of that ring, he's come out there having tried as hard as he can, win or lose. And he's proved also his resilience in that a loss is not the end of your career. And I think the public have appreciate that. That's why they're coming out in such big numbers for this fight. I mean, we've sold more tickets for this fight than they did for Cooper Bugner, for about 3 or 4 Lennox Lewis world title defences, like the Beaufort fight, the McCall fight in London. That's a bit of a statement from the fans as far as Derek's concerned.
Well, you're right in what you say. Against Klitschko, against Usyk, whoever, he has always left it all in the ring. In terms of his character, quite volatile. Many years ago, I feel like he has calmed down. He's still a character, but he's changed.
It could be a bit of a nut job. I mean, it was hard work sometimes and get yourself in some scrapes and whatever over the years. But he's calmed down, as you say. He's got family now. He's got children himself, and he knows. And we discussed this. This is his last fight in the UK. Then he gets to the big 5-0, and that he says, and he promised me, will be his last fight. I mean, I said he should have retired a couple of years ago. And he proved me wrong in that. And he's still going. He's still going strong. He was in a great fight last year, him and Joe Joyce. It was a bloody exciting fight, and he came through that, being the underdog, came through and done what he had to do.
Frank, I know he has touched upon, having the 50th maybe in Africa, but he said potentially because of political issues that might not happen. So do you expect the 50th to actually be in the UK, or?
I expect him to focus on the 49th, because without the 49th being successful, there won't be a 50.
Okay, so if he loses this, you'll be saying...
It's how you lose as well, if you lose. This is a tough fight. People don't overlook Otto Wallin. He's only lost 2 fights, and that's to 2 world champions, Tyson Fury and AJ. All the rest are wins, and he's trained as a smart guy. Joey Gamache is a good trainer, former 2-time world champion himself. They fancy this. That's why they're here. And what everybody's forgetting about, this is the eliminator for the IBF title.
Just actually on that situation, so we know Bakoli and Ajagba have agreed to fight in May in New York. That I thought was a final eliminator. So is this an eliminator for that, Frank?
This is the eliminator for the IBF title, and the IBF will decide what they're going to do after that. If,
I know you guys are hoping Derek is to come through, that would be some way to bow out fighting for a world title, wouldn't it?
Of course it would. It'd be brilliant for him, wouldn't it? I mean, that to get back in there and be doing that. And again, hopefully if Daniel comes through on the 22nd in Riyadh against Joe Parker, him and Derek, I mean, what a fight that would be. Yeah, of course it'd do.
It's a dangerous fight.
They're fights. We're blessed at Queensbury in the heavyweight division. Our guys are all, our main heavyweights are all in, quite a few of them are in mandatory or they're interim champions. So we're blessed from that perspective, and they've all got to fight each other. That's what's going to happen. These guys are all fighting each other. There's some massive events, and they're all British fighters. And I look back to when I started out in boxing and the British scene. Big iconic names for British sport like Henry Coopers, or Joe Bugners, Brian London's. You can go from Dick Richardson's. All these really good fighters. None of them won world titles. None of them. It was all America, America, America. Now, take Usyk out and it's Britain, Britain, Britain.
Absolutely. Just sticking with the heavyweight, Charles Martin called out Moses Itauma. Charles Martin, former world champion, been in there with AJ, Luis Ortiz. Is that something you're considering? I know Moses has got a fight pending that's going to be announced soon, but Charles Martin, would you entertain that later this year?
I love it. This kid he's not a kid, he's a man now, who was 20 last month, that former world champions and fighters like that are calling out this kid. It's amazing. Tells you what everybody thinks about him.
Now he's got options, hasn't he, Moses? Hot property.
He's a great prospect. He's done everything that's asked of him, and he's done them in mature fashion. He's not like some impetuous young kid coming out and wants to beat him and eat him. He comes out and he's very measured in what he does. He's a very, very mature fighter, and his thought process and the way he goes about his work. He's got a superb jab. He's got his timing. He keeps his composure. I love watching him fight, and as does the public, as does a lot of the media. They're all making him being the biggest prospects out there, and I quite agree with that. So for him, he's got a big year ahead of him. And these guys like Derek, coming to the end of his career now, 50 fights. If he comes to the 50 fights, Tyson's retired. How many fights is Usyk going to have in him? There's going to be a changing of the guard, and it will happen. This year's going to be a very interesting year for the heavyweight division.
Well, you've had another addition. Sensational amateur Derek Chisora joins the Queensberry heavyweight roster. Him and Moses in 4 or 5 years could be a super fight down the line.
All these fights are. I mean, they will be made. They will be made because we're not going to have to worry about people saying they want the fights and they don't. It'll be within our wherewithal to make them happen. And if they don't happen, it will only be because one of the fighters doesn't want it.
Just give me your thoughts on signing Derek Chisora, though, Frank.
I'm delighted. I mean, close fight in the Olympics. He went there where a lot of people thought he was going to win the gold. But that happens. You can train, you train your whole career. You work hard, and your goal is to go for the Olympics. And I'm not saying it's a bad decision, but close decision. Anything can happen. Suddenly it's gone because you've got no control of who you're fighting. It's a lottery. That's what it is. Professional boxing. That's why a lot of my guys, I like them turning pro young, because we can guide them. We can pick who they're fighting. When Amir Khan got to the final and he fought Kindland in that final, he got behind in the first cut round. Kindland was like one of the great amateurs of all time, Cuban, genius, but he won that last round. And when we were talking, he was going to turn pro. We had this discussion. Let's make a rematch, because this time you can train for him. You're not training to go into a competition. You're training to face the opponent. You know who he is. And he beat him. Second time round beat him. And that's the point I make about it. That's why I like that. I mean, look, it's great to go to the Olympics. It's great to represent your country. If you win the gold medal, it adds a bit of, makes the money situation different when you turn pro and so forth. But you start early, like Daniel did, like Moses has done, and other fighters like Ricky did, Amir did, although he went to Olympics, but he was only 17, 18 when he went to Olympics. When these guys turn pro, they all went on to win world titles, and they've done it at a very young age. And I'm a big believer in that, and I'm going to upset probably all the amateurs and everybody by saying that, but I'm a big believer in that.
Frank, just away from this, quickly want to go through some things. So, Carlos Adames, he posted that he's stuck at Las Vegas airport.
There is no problem with that. I don't know why that went up. There is no issues whatsoever. Him and Hamza will be facing each other on the 22nd in Riyadh. for the middleweight title.
Great. I haven't spoke to you since Anthony Kakachi, your former world champion, vacated his belt. Eddie's obviously been very strong on this. Sugar Nunes is his guy. He said it's a straight duck that it's a straight duck. He's ducked Sugar Nunes. Frank, just a response?
He hasn't ducked him at all. We made a commercial decision for him, and we're going to announce his fight, and it's a big fight, and he'll make far, far more money out of that fight than he would in defending his title. He's 36 years of age, and he's a fighting man. He hasn't ducked anybody. We sat down and we looked at it, and I mean, I'm not being disrespectful to Nunes. If he walked in this room, no one would know who he is. And I'm not being disrespectful, and God bless him. But the fight that he will have is a quality fight. It's a great fight, and him and his opponent will make a truckload of money.
Finally, Canelo Alvarez was looking like he was going to box Terence Crawford in September. We've heard today that might not be the case. What's your understanding of that, Frank? Have you heard anything?
I mean, I only, like everybody else, I watched the ring announcement today that the fight's off in September, and the word is that they are quite close to making the fight between Alvarez and Jake Paul.
Your thoughts on that?
If it happens, I don't know what weight they're fighting at, but if it happens, he's put a lot of weight on. If that fight happens, Jake's not fighting a 58-year-old guy. He's fighting one of the best fighters in the world.
He's not going to hold him up, is he, Canelo?
No, they not at all. I don't think he could hold. I don't think he would know how to hold anybody up. But they make a fortune. I make a lot of money, as he would do fighting Crawford. But,
this is a bigger financial fight, isn't it, Canelo Jake Paul? Would you say?
Look, you start talking about the monies, whatever they are. But I look at more at what the opponents are, and you got to think that Crawford's a tougher fight than fighting Jake, because Jake hasn't fought at that level.
Is it bad for boxing that pound for pound stars going in with Jake Paul? Would you say fair play to Jake Paul?
I, at the end of the day, I don't know, because on one hand, you got everybody saying, why don't Jake Paul fight somebody? He's fighting somebody. If it happens, he's fighting somebody. I've got to be honest, I'd love to have seen the Crawford fight, but that's their decision. It's not my decision.
Okay, lastly, massive night here, Co-op Live, an amazing arena here in Manchester. Derek sold a load of tickets. Nathan Heaney sold a load of tickets. Nelson Heezer, the Albanian fighter, heavyweight, sold a load of tickets.
I mean, this is going to be a magnificent atmosphere here. I mean, a magnificent atmosphere. Jack Rafferty sold a lot of tickets.
Masood Abdullah and Zach Miller, that's a fiery fight.
They're all good fights. You look at the records, you look at their records and you look at the closeness of it. They're all good quality fights. That's why it's sold so well. And it's called promotion. Who'd ever thought we would be putting a main event on for Derek Chisora's 49th fight against Otto Wallin in the best arena in Europe? Who'd ever thought that had been happening?
Well, you and Derek's been a roller coaster of a journey, and an unbelievably emotional one, and it continues this Saturday night in its final chapter.
Thank you.
Cheers, Frank.